Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
Good morning. Hi, Horst. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Fabrizio. Nice to see you.
It's a long time.
Absolutely.
But it's always a pleasure.
Same here, and we all survived until now.
Yeah, alive and kicking.
Buongiorno, Fabrizio.
Buongiorno, good morning.
Good morning. So, welcome everybody. It's time to start. Thank you for joining us today. The topic is the analysis of disruptions in the health ecosystem. As we all know, there has been a lot of disruptions. Today we will focus on those that are critical up to now, or could be critical also for a new possible rebound that anybody wish, but could happen. Okay. Today we have with us for the first block for the conceptual framework, Horst Donday. He has to leave in just 30 minutes until 9. So we will use him as much as possible during those next minutes. Welcome, Horst. I will give you the presentation right now, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Let me find my presentation here. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
It's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. Yeah, my name is Horst Donday. I am the managing director of BioM GmbH, which is the cluster management organization for Munich and also for the Bavarian Biotech Network. And I would make a very short report about a survey we made in the past 2 or 3 weeks. We had a number of phone calls with several of our companies, which are located here, mainly in the Munich area, because 95% of the Bavarian biotech cluster is located in the greater Munich area. And through these phone calls, we found out it would be good to make perhaps a more thorough survey. So we started a survey, and it was anonymized. But companies could also present their names if they wanted, and so we could come back to them. The tool was SurveyMonkey, and we sent out the survey to about 400 companies directly to the managing directors. We had 12 questions, and until now, 90 questionnaires were returned to us, and they could be evaluated. This is a first evaluation that we did, and I will shortly go through that. Do that here. Yeah, okay, good. So of course, one of the questions was, first of all, what kind of company are you? They are all in the field of biotech, medtech, IT health, but mainly biotech companies. And from that, you can see that from those who responded, most of them were the very small ones, between 1 to 10 employees. But also, let's say the others responded quite well as well. And here, one of the first questions we asked, how concerned are you with the consequences of the coronavirus spread for your company? There you see that the majority is not so concerned, but on the other hand, you can see that more than half of them are somehow concerned, relatively concerned, making up 33%. And here, yeah, here are listed the companies. I will go over that. So you see, it's not only biotech, and biotech has been discriminated between the different areas, general therapeutics, diagnostic, etc. So they make up more than half of that, yeah. And some of them are working in different spaces. And here we asked them specifically what challenges arise through the COVID-19 pandemic for your company and your employees. And there you see that there are really different answers that were given to us. Well, we had asked them. You see, for example, that the work process had to be reorganized. That was a major concern. The hygiene measures, etc. And there was a whole area. Interestingly, also very many companies, and I think that's the majority, I will come to that in a moment, is the organization of childcare, because we heard from many managing directors that everything would work better if they could go to work, or if they could work at home, much better if they had solved the problem of childcare, because schools were closed, preschools and kindergartens were closed. So that was obviously the problem which affected most of the companies. So more than half of the companies had a concern and had problems with that. And then we asked, of course, what kind of measures did you take? A decent number did not have to take any big measures, yeah, about a quarter. But then a very important tool has been used, because here in Germany we have a very good system about that. It's the so-called short-time work, that people could stay at home and still could 60% of their salary, or if you have children, up to 60-75% of the salary. And I think after a couple of weeks, that might even be increased to 80% or 87%. So even, well, that was interesting that in some companies the staff would be increased, and we see that those who work now very concretely on the pandemic, that they want to resolve, that they want to do studies, that they want to do research and development. They even were looking for people, but at the moment it's also difficult to find new people, because then the employees from other companies or those who are in a waiting position are a little bit afraid that this stimulus will soon go away, and then they're sitting in a company which is developing a vaccine or a therapeutic or a diagnostics, which is not needed anymore. So that's a very interesting observation that we made. Now, one of the major questions, of course, is if the companies have already applied for financial support. There were all kinds of different measures announced by the federal government and also by the Free State of Bavaria. Interestingly, you see the majority of the companies did not do so, and that came also from the fact that some of these promises were perhaps not very good promises, because it was from a state bank, it was guaranteed 100% guarantee. So people did not have to go into any risk. But when you talk to the house bank, I already talked about that in a former session, then they said, well, that's not really the case, but you have to guarantee with your private property. And then people went back and said, no, maybe I do not need that. And then even the banks asked them, well, if you need money now, then it seems you have a problem. Then we should look at your credit line that you already have, and maybe we have to change the conditions. And that was a major reason that people retracted their proposition, and that was very strange indeed. And also from the right side here, you see that the managing directors of the companies, it's about 1/3, which will really need on the short term and medium term, that they will need some financial support so that the companies don't go bankrupt. And there will be measures. I think in most of the cases it will be okay. Now, then we asked the question, if has the situation of orders coming in those companies who really sell something, has there been some change? And from that you can see that a decent number also was affected by that, low changes, but we also had let's say a number of companies which were dependent on sales going to research institutes, and especially those who had a very good export rate to the United States, they were affected a lot. So there were a couple of companies, not too many, but who had a reduction of more than 80 or even 90% of their sales. So they were affected. So there, let's say in general, you can say that there is now no changes, 37% here, but there might be also some drastic changes in here. We also asked the question that's perhaps not so interesting, if they are involved in let's say, producing or developing something which could be helpful in the current crisis. So from there you can see that all kind of aspects have been mentioned: drug development, diagnostic development, vaccine development rather low, because yeah, we have big players here in the field, not too many people, not too many companies are working on that, and especially also the lab analytics, which can be used, let's say, in specific questions to do something against the corona pandemic, have been very strong. Okay, then are you looking for cooperation partners, was one of the questions, and there you see there are about, it's about half and half. Very strong is 20% that of companies that are really looking for partners. Half of them not, because they say, well, it's not our field. But interestingly, that, let's say, a big part of the companies who have not, there was almost nobody working, let's say, well, there was nobody working on SARS-CoV-2 virus, but now all of a sudden they switched to this respective field, and also started to do research, to start development. And here I think I come to the penultimate question here, what I had already shown before, because we asked them, you can write down what are your major problems, what would you like to get answered, what are your problems. And here are the most common answers. We got more than 50 of those, and then we collected, and as I already showed on one of the previous slides, improved childcare offers. This was indeed the major problem. People would have liked to go back to their labs, to their offices, which was difficult. They all had to do it from home. Some things you cannot do from home. Also, for some of the companies, what's important that they can get connected in person to other companies, to their distributors, to their customers, and the cancellation of travel restrictions would be very important for them. Then also financial support, be it let's say financing or be it grants. And well, people are also well, they saw the possibility that now the picture of biotechnology might become more visible, and how important this field, life sciences, is. And they also had asked us, can we not altogether strengthen the visibility of biotechnology, because many of my colleagues here in the cluster say, this is our time, this is our hour, now we can show that we can do something. But in contrast perhaps to the United States, there's not too much support from the governments, from the states, from the federal ministries, etc. For example, this huge 7.5 billion pot of money that was collected by Ursula von der Leyen, nobody knows how to access this money. But on the other hand, politicians say, now we have a lot of money there, we do not have to do anything else. And all the national and regional authorities now point to Brussels, and they say, well, go there, because we have committed a lot of money to that purpose. And although I really loved this a strong commitment of the 7.4 billion euros, on the other hand, it's then of course has the counter effect that national and regional authorities think that they don't have to do anything about that anymore. So that was my short presentation. I hope I kept in time somehow, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Wonderful presentation and job, Horst. Thank you very much. So we have 15 minutes more with you. You need to leave at 9. So if anybody have comments or questions for Horst, it's the time to do that. Who wants to ask, comment?
Hi, yes, I'm Morgan from Eurobiomed. So we are a health tech cluster from southern France, and thank you very much, Horst, for your presentation. We practically did the same thing with this survey, and we have very similar results. So we see that companies are or will be in trouble soon, and they need our help. So we are trying to think about how we can work on this recovery plan. So I was wondering if you've been thinking about it, if you have been already working on this recovery plan in the health sector on your region and country, and as a cluster, I mean, because I understand that here in the south of France, we've been trying to work very closely with the local authorities, and hopefully we will do the same at the European level, because we have a lot to say actually. So I was wondering how you're working on this.
Yes, well, we are working on that. We are in close contact with our politicians, not only with the offices and the ministries, but in this situation, it was indeed possible to find direct contact with the ministers, etc., and they will transfer it to the prime minister. So we strongly hope that we can do that. On the other hand, well, we have, of course, to accept the rules that. In many cases, very strict rules that are there, which make a lot of sense. But I think in some cases it might be people don't have to travel for making holidays. That's my personal opinion, which is okay as well. But I think to start business, it should be possible to do that. So you need opening of some hotels when people go elsewhere, but at least that a couple of day travels should be possible to get in contact with the customers. Otherwise, what I should add once more, well, we have also tried to urge our authorities, or let's say the financing or funding institutions, to not only spend the billions and billions and hundreds of billions to just restore the economy of the state or of the country, but what the governments have failed until now, that they have not supported this very specific industry to do something against the pandemic. I do not know how that is in other countries, but that I was really missing. This is the only positive thing, I must admit. I hope the NSA does not hear me, because that then I might get problems to travel in the United States in the future. But I say something positive. Well, that Mr. Trump really invited the biotech and pharma companies and said, let's do something. And also the financial support in the United States for pharma and biotech is really good. And I do not see that so much in Europe. So there are a lot of warm words and nice words, but I do not see a real invitation to do something, because the problem of the companies is that they usually do not have this money. It's not in their budget. That's true for more or less all of the companies. Some of them who have understandable investors, they could switch to do some new things. Here we have, for example, a company who had already a clinical trial running in the field of oncology to treat cancer patients. Now you remember this drug had shown a very positive effect on viruses. They checked SARS-2 and they found, okay, it has an effect there as well. And they will start still this week or next week a clinical study, and immediately into a phase 2 study, because this drug has been tested already in more than 600 patients, so it is safe. Yeah, so these are the wonderful examples that we see. But there are also, we got a number of wonderful proposals of our local companies who have very good ideas, but the financial support is needed in this case. So if I may say one critique, it is that a lot is done in Germany to let our car industry, our automobiles industry survive, but instead of pushing, let's say, this industry, which might bring solutions, there's not happening enough.
Yes, thank you. I agree with you, and we have the same situation in France, and we will be working very hard to try to restore this technological and sanitary sovereignty in Europe. And if we need to do this, we must have some more help and financial support in the innovation and R&D in the health tech. That's for sure. and we are quite. We have some concerns about the financial support that will be offered to the company that will. Most of them will be in difficulties in the coming months because now they survive, but I think the problem will be in the few months coming. So they will need definitely some financial support to work on their amazing R&D projects and innovation. So I hope both at the local and European plan we will see some measures and that the Horizon Europe project will maybe, hopefully, be coming soon to help these companies and specifically SMEs because they will need help from Europe. That's for sure.
Thank you very much.
Hi, this is Jorge Gonzalez. I have a related question. First, you are familiar with the CRI Plus funding, the coronavirus response initiative that is taking the remainings of the structural funds, the ERDF funds. My question is if you happen to know that, how is that being used in Germany, for example? Do you think that this is an alternative? What is the status in Germany for that?
Well, I do not know of that because here in Munich, well, there are some possibilities for regions which already in the past have needed stronger financial support, but in the Munich region has always been exempted from that because we are a very flourishing region. But I will look into this instrument. Thank you for this hint. I did not check that out. I'm sorry that I cannot give you any
Right. Then as a summary, the CRI Plus is to take the remainings of ERDF to be placed against the fight of the coronavirus. So perhaps for the French colleague that was mentioning that before, that could be a useful option for you to investigate. We had a webinar some weeks ago that maybe you can recover. I don't know if we can share the information regarding that from the organization, so that because I think that fund is perhaps for Bayern because you guys are doing too well, but it can be helpful for other regions because in theory it's a lot of money, all for against the coronavirus. So maybe that can be leveraged. That's a suggestion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jorge. We have 8 minutes with Horst. Any other comment or question on his speech?
Fabrizio speaking. Can I comment a little bit, particularly about the startup situation? We did both some interviews with companies, but we interviewed also a group of venture capitalists, Italian, European, and Americans. And we perceive a small change in the propension to the investment. They are more risk adverse. They are saying that they will review pre-money evaluation methodology, lowering pre-money evaluation, and they will try to diversify more their portfolio. Obviously, in a situation where there is a general lack of risk investment in Europe, lowering another time pre-money evaluation, having a less strong propension to risk could be an issue to support our startups and their growing phases. I don't know if those results are similar to the results that have been collected in other territories and clusters, but from another point of view, those results are also justifying public intervention in order to make more attractive the market for those investors. And I think most of the countries in Europe did something of similar. We are not able now to understand the efficacy of those measures in our sector, but I think that could be another issue because startups in our cluster are, let's say, a factor of internal dynamics. So, Horst, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I completely agree, and that was also the major argument that we used towards our politicians, because we realized there's a complete market failure of the venture capital industry. We talked also to several of those people, and they said, well, why don't you invest, for example, in one of these very interesting, very promising therapeutic and vaccination research and development plans? And they said, no, that would be the least thing. First of all, this will be over, so they don't care if there are further pandemics. And the second thing is that they say, well, we have to keep our money for our portfolio companies, which probably will take more time, so we have to save money for them. So it will be difficult, really difficult to get new investments, especially in that area. In another case that we supported here, it was a very interesting vaccine that was to be developed, and this vaccine has two options: to vaccinate against bladder tumors and to vaccinate against SARS-CoV-2. And the investors would only invest into the oncology part, but not the other part. So that's very interesting. Also, our approach to these private family offices, where we thought that some of the very rich, the billionaires, could bring in some money that they say, oh no, we've lost so much money in the past weeks, we cannot do anything, and we are not charity organization. So that also is a market failure of this group of people or organizations that we realized. And I hope that the plans that are now in discussion, at least on the German level, but maybe also on the European level, will come into action. So there might be some matchmaking money coming from state banks in Germany. So if an investor, a venture capitalist, continues to invest in his companies, 1 million, 1 extra million will be added by public money or something like this. The major problem is how to support those companies which have not been backed by investors, those who are affected by downgoing sales. No solutions have been found for that as well. Of course, there might be loans that might be given out, but as I told you before, the banks are very restrictive, and the words of the politicians do not tell you always the truth. But we have to work on that, and maybe it's a good idea to do more on that aspect on the European level.
Thank you very much, Horst. I think that it's time for you to leave us. Yes, thank you. You will always be welcome in our sessions.
Yeah.
Thank you. We continue. Okay. Marek has just shared one link to the recovery plan. I think this is totally new. Marek, will you comment? We are not hearing you. I don't know if you are speaking, but we are not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, very far. Very far. The sound is very poor.
Okay.
A lot of echo.
I try to speak now. Okay, is it okay? So I put the link, and the link is to the latest yesterday announced the package, recovery package by the European Commission. I think in ECA we will come back to this, but I just put the link so that everyone can see what is proposed, and there are measures regarding the health as well, this health program, special 10 billion euro, and all these elements you can find in the link. I cannot present it now. It was announced yesterday, so it's very fresh. I need to read it myself as well. All the proposals. This is of course proposal of the European Commission. It must go through Parliament, through the Council to agree. But this is related to MFF 2021-2027. But what was said about support for health, it is definitely very prominent, I must say, in this new package for the future. So even in our staff working document, we didn't even mention the value of billions of euro needed in investment in health, because it's very hard to to estimate. So this is for everyone to can have a look, and this is the yesterday publication. Thank you.
Thank you, Marek. Okay, so we return to the discussion for today. I think that we have here a lot of experts. We have yet 30 minutes to speak about the health ecosystem, and I would propose you to focus on the disruptions, because we want to be useful with these sessions. We want to report to our institutions, to the European Commission, about the critical disruptions. Some of them are very clear by now. I think that it's very clear that there is a funding problem, okay, and it's also interesting to know, for example, that there is a problem with the child care. It's not the first time that we speak about, okay, that, but it would be really helpful if today we are able to put in common disruptions that are not evident, that are new, or at least for us or for the European Commission. So I will propose you to share with us those concepts, those disruptions that not only now, but perhaps in the near future or during the next month will arise and could be critical for facing the new possible rebound, or even without the rebound the next month. Okay, so please share with us your expertise. Who wants to speak first?
If you like, Antonio, I can start in order to break the ice. What happened, in my view, was an impact on several levels of the ecosystem. We already discussed about startups, but probably it is not the most important on a short-term vision. What happened is that the ecosystem demonstrated to be rigid against the pandemic. It means not enough rapid in the capability to adapt to the new situation. And such rigidity could be appreciated absolutely along the value chain. From one side, the supply component, and particularly in the pharma sector, the supply side is managed by Asian companies. Active pharmaceutical ingredients are coming from China, India, and so on. All chain has been cut. And companies, particularly medium to big companies, had to rethink their logistic and supply side. The second aspect was linked to markets. Companies that had products already on the market followed, quite in every case that I know, the approach to complete used stocks, lowering production rate and avoid to have stocks in far countries. I know quite well pharma companies, and all the pharma companies that I know, also some multinational corporations follow such approach. It means that they increase revenues on the short time, but probably they will have issues in starting from August, because stocks will finish. And such element demonstrated, in my view, some limit of the actual interpretation of the value chain, are too rigid. And last but not least, the healthcare system demonstrated, at least in Italy, but I know because I know quite well the Spanish situation, an incredible rigidity. They were not able to adapt quickly to the new situation. The rigidity has several starting points. This is not the moment to discuss about those starting points, but I think that at least in Italy and Spain, that I know better, there is a strong impact, particularly in urban center. The spread of the virus was quite concentrated where there are urban situations, and for those territories and also for the companies belonging to those territories, it was quite strong. The character of the disruption is different depending the lens that you use to see the disruption. In my view, the supply chain and the commercial last mile were the more visible, but changed completely all the organization of work inside the company. Also in labs, because the social distancing is changing the way that R&D activities are performed. And I hope that are short-term changes that will leave positive elements. Positive elements because the crisis provoke an analysis of how things are managed. And we are going towards an increased efficiency probably in the use of resources. So there is also a positive aspect. That's all, some comments.
Grazie mille, Fabrizio. Yes, I have some questions for you. First, you mentioned problems in the supply chains. Okay, it will be not necessarily to answer now, but it will be very good to better define those problems if they are still there. Okay. We could speak later or exchange some emails, okay? But it's in our interest to identify those problems that are there. You mentioned also the question that there could be some problems in the market from August due the different policies in production and storing of medicines. It's not the first time that I hear that, and again, it will be very helpful for us to, without compromises. We understand that it's not a question of it will not be sure thing, okay? But perhaps it will be good to have some kind of more information about which kind of products could have those problems, because we need to be prepared. Okay. I have heard, for example, that there are problems with painkillers, strong painkillers. I don't know if it's true or not. Okay, and that kind of information will help us a lot.
Okay. Starting from the supply chain, we are in a global world. From a personal point of view, I'm thinking that we cannot think in terms of be completely independent in the production of every single pharmaceutical ingredient as a political strategy. I think that we are in a global world, and we have to recognize that we are in a global world. It means that today, particularly China, but also India, but mainly China, have a key role in the production of chemicals and active pharmaceutical ingredients that European companies are using in order to produce drugs. Is a global value chain. Is a win-win situation because the same products are sold in China at an incredible price. The premium price for European products in China is quite high today. So is a common interest to develop a solution that will permit to both parties, and the US are in a similar situation, to recover quickly. Obviously, we can identify in theory, and we can also think to develop European policies, at least on key active pharmaceutical ingredients or biotech products, because there is a similar problem. We can identify policies that at least will permit us to be ready to answer to a second or a third crisis. And this is something that we avoided to do in the last years. So there are good reasons to think, at least to identify key products or key value chain that have to be managed at European level. Only to be a little bit provocative, yesterday I read on an Italian newspaper that Italy will be independent in the mass production in September. Okay, it's nice, but it's not changing the problem. Masks are low added value products. It's a problem of quantity. It would be better probably to understand how to be sure that the mask produced in China will be provided. The unitary cost will be low, it's more efficient, it's an economic issue. At the opposite for antibody production, that is added value products, we can manage to have an internal production that could be in line with our demand. So we have also to choose, because we cannot do everything. We are in a global world, there is a small division of work. Passing to the market, I hope that is a short-term problem. Pharma company never ended the production activity. They simply lower production rate. So probably we will have a small problem across the summer, because stocks will be finished and production level has not reached the production level before the crisis. But probably in the autumn we will return at the normal situation, let's say. We have at European level other products. For example, we are not autonomous in the production of cell therapies or antibodies. It's a really complex production process, and there are really few companies in Europe able to do that in GMP and with the right rate of production in terms of quantity. And this is another element that policy probably have to address.
Perfect.
That's all.
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
Can I make a very small comment on Fabrizio? It's about something that I think is very important, that is the partnership between public and private. If there is a sector where the partnership between public and private is the health system, and here in Portugal and in other countries, we have very good examples of cooperation between the multinationals, startups, public hospitals, private hospitals. But at the same time, in some situations, there was not that cooperation. There was a lack of confidence because of payments and problems of money. And I think this is a lesson for the future, how to develop a very good system of partnership between the public and private in the health system.
Thank you. We have with us here Ferran Fillat, a doctor in Barcelona. Ferran, would you comment what your point of view? How do you see the current disruptions on your area, and how can we be better prepared in the future?
Hello, Antonio. Thank you for the invitation. Very interesting comments. I'm a orthopedic surgeon. I'm a little bit strange maybe here in this group, but I'm very interested in all the comments, all the reflections you have done. And if, maybe you don't know us, but here in our hospital near Barcelona, Sabadell, Parc Taulí, we liberate an initiative in order to supply the hospital using 3D printing applications to provide some material that with the usual suppliers cannot, or that the stock of the normal stock was broken, and we supply with some pieces in some more of them hardware consumables, inspired by the initiative in Italy with some groups that they print venturi valves, and we elaborate a new catalog of 27 consumables that were, and we liberate the design to all the in our website, in order that everybody in the world can, with a free printer, can print, and with a specific technical specific details and materials, with enough safety for being used in patients. So I don't know, maybe the reflection in all of this, later I can give you the link of our website to you can check our catalog, but the reflections are that more or less that you say, how 3D printing can adapt the demand in order to, because the normal chain supply depends on the stocks, and 3D printing is the new way to produce. So it's capable to adapt in a more flexible way to produce some products that doesn't need most of them need injections to be performed, so you can adapt rapidly. And our experience is the result that it's possible that 3D printing is now prepared to respond for future pandemics, and maybe it's the change to fight against the deslocalization of most of the production here in Europe, that is now most of them in China, and it can solve maybe this problem that affects now in this pandemic. So sorry, because I'm working. I don't know if you have any questions or something to know that you know.
Thank you, Ferran. I understand that you had some issues with homologation, or you are having yet some issues, or not? Ferran, can you hear me?
As you say, our main problem was how to. Yes, do you hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Hello?
We are hearing you. Yes, Ferran.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Ferran?
Yes. The problem it was that in 3 weeks we had to approve, or we need to approve by most of the products are medical devices, so they need the approval of the competent agency of the local country, or it depends on the country. But 3D print, we play with the 3D printing products, and we use the 3D printing regulation, in-house manufacturing regulation for medical device. We have a lot of experience in this way, because before the pandemic, we work with personalized implants, so we know a lot of how to produce medical device behind this regulation. So we cover it, because the problem was that in 3 weeks we had to supply a lot of deficiencies of products, and the goal was to arrive at time, no? Because and in a way that in a secure way for the manufacturer. So we use the regulation, and so the manufacturer was the hospital. The hospital was had the responsibilities for as a manufacturer. So is a specific regulation in that it's available. It's based on the medical device in-house manufacturing. So we establish a circuit, I don't know how to say, a chain covering this regulatory, so we can until now manufacture 21,000 consumables, and we can share in more than 30 hospitals in the local zone in a safe way for the patient and for the manufacturers, because we get inside the regulatory way. So there are some limitations also. Some products like ventilators. We participate in developing one of the ventilators here in Catalonia, the Leitat one, and this we need to we cannot cover with this type of regulation, and we need to pass for the medical agency. So, but most of the products that you can see in the catalog are available to be manufactured by in-house 3D printing.
Thank you very much, and congratulations, Ferran, because we know that you have done wonderful work and has facilitated a lot of resources for not only your hospital but also a lot of hospitals there in Catalonia. Thank you, and
thank you very much.
Good if you are able to share the link to the
yes.
repository. Yeah, thank you.
I'm copying the link. I share you right now. Thank you very much
for joining us. Okay.
Good morning, Antonio.
Good morning.
I'm Raúl Malaina. I'm also a physician working at the Madrid Regional Ministry of Health. And I got a couple of ideas. I mean, I think we saw already that the healthcare system is not ready for this kind of pandemics. And it's not ready because of the strain of the healthcare. I mean, it was already quite full even for the flu season. So all the beds usually every single year are full in most of the hospitals under the flu season. So we need to change, I think, everything in the sense that we need more equipment or more staff or even more spaces ready for this kind of pandemic. I think we should work more like a fireman. So get ready in case it happens. And I think Europe could play a role on this when you have, I would say, kind of staff ready or prepare in case it's needed. So people able to travel from one area to another. I think it's maybe useful not only for pandemic, but also for natural disasters. So this project that there was a European project about what they call the white force, I think can be useful, and I think we need to redesign all the things about healthcare once this happens. I mean, since the design of the hospitals and primary care centers until how we train the staff, because we got the problem that too many doctors are very specialized in one surgery, for instance, but they were not enough trained to deal with this kind of patients. So I think we need to rethink everything. I think we could give a list of things to do in order to avoid a next wave, or at least to be prepared for the next pandemic.
That's excellent, Raul. Thank you very much. And please don't doubt to share those documents with us. Okay, we will deliver them to the European Commission. Thank you very much. Comments? More comments? Approaches?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I would like to add a little bit about China products. We had a problem with the complementarity between some devices with other devices. We used 3D printing to create, let's say, pieces of equipment missing. So if we discuss about not reinventing the wheel and not to bring local products in the market, we should be sure that the products that are coming from China, for example, are respecting the requirements or they are fitting with the existing equipment. And this is something that you usually find out, unfortunately, in this kind of times when the product arrives. So we used in Romania 3D printing, besides printing things from the beginning, but also for connecting equipments who came from China in order to make them workable, in the system. So this is also important. The quality of what you bring from different countries, not only the product itself.
You mean standardization and
Yeah,
assuring
even
the
if they
quality?
were standardized. So according to the, the offer, they were standardized. When they came, for example, ventilators, the holes for the ventilators were smaller and you could not plug them with the rest of the tubes. And we used 3D printing to make this connection in a research institute. This is just one small example. So even if standardization exists, the quality check in this kind of crisis, it's hard to be really delivered. So we should find a way to prevent this kind of losing time, because it costs also time and money to put this kind of products in the market.
Thank you, Flaviana. Okay.
Hello, Antonio. This is Ramon Garcia from Spain.
Hi, Ramon.
Yes, just one comment. One of the biggest problems that we have in at least at the beginning of this crisis related to the purchasing in healthcare and public healthcare hospitals was that there are no practices that are adopted by the retail years ago, that are the standardization of catalogs and also the connection of the IT systems between the hospitals and the regions and national level. The problem is since the hospitals in the several countries in Europe are managed by regions or locally, they have their own logistic systems for sourcing, and they have their own catalogs, their own systems, and they are not connected. And you are lacking the visibility on where are the stocks. They are not centralized. And also, we have a very big problem when, in this case, in the Spanish case, when the national level have the responsibility of budgeting for everybody, they don't have the visibility of where are the items, and also the name of the items is completely different even between hospitals. And this is a very big problem for effectivity of the supply. And I think it's one thing that we have to solve, because as well as I said previously, in retail, this problem is solved years ago. In this case, we have to make something, because it's very complicated if we want to centralize any security stock for the national healthcare systems or something similar, or we need to balance the resources between one hospital that needs and one hospital that have more than he needs. To balance that, if we have different names for the issue or the item, or we have no visibility across all the stocks that we have in the chain or the system. And this is my comment.
On a very, very good comment. Connection is critical. Yeah. As always, standardization is critical in these cases, especially. Okay. Perfect. So, Ferran, you are sharing a call. Will you comment why? Yeah. Would you
related
comment?
as yes. I'm sharing you a call, in a European call, because as you said, it's very interesting now, because how we can organize better in order to prevent or be more rapid in the future pandemic situations, or maybe more you say we are different countries, we reply some initiative that in order to unify the efforts of manufacturing. We are preparing a call in consortium, because in a European call, maybe if you are interested, or maybe we can talk about participating. We have a limited deadline. This is 11 June. So maybe this is we have not enough time to prepare this, but maybe in future calls in like this, we can participate together. So I think it's a good opportunity to, if you have you can participate, or you would like to participate. I think it's a good opportunity, because to know different partners in Europe. But as you know, in this type of calls, we need to make consortiums in different countries in Europe. So you have my contact here in Spain, and maybe with Antonio we can, if you are interested, we can maybe in a future calls, because this is a little bit precipitated. We can participate together.
I know that there are clusters here that are working, and we are involved in some on the strand B and C, not in the A. I know that there are some clusters also interested in the A strand, but I don't. I know. As far as I know. Okay, well, let's check if somebody is interested in the A strand and is looking for partnerships, for partners. This is an open invitation from Ferran, and we could link you for sure.
Thank you, Antonio.
No, you are really welcome. So we should close.
Antonio, this is Athanasios. I did not understand. Is this an open call now for partners, or it is just an indication for a future call?
From Ferran, you mean? From Ferran?
Yes.
The problem of this call is that the deadline is a call that appeared, that was presented the 1 week before, and this is will be closed at the 11 June. So it's an example.
Yes. Are you preparing a proposal for that?
Yes.
Okay.
But we are not the leaders. We are a partner of the consortium. But if you are interested, maybe in this call, I don't know, if you are very interested, you can, and you think that you can participate in it, you can send me your contact with Antonio, and I don't know if in this call it should be possible, but I'm sure that there will appear new calls like this. Yes.
Okay.
Athanasios will be a great value for your consortia, I'm sure. So I will give you the Athanasios contact.
Thank you, Antonio.
We have equipment that we could contribute, and facilities. That's why I mentioned it.
Thank you. You can send me your email via Antonio or via this chat. No
I'll do that immediately.
Thank you.
If you want to share the email in the chat, is yours. It's up to you. Okay. If not, I can send you the contact. Perfect. So we should close. It has been a very interesting day session. You have in the ECCP Forum. Sorry, this is not the link. The link is published. I don't know where. Today's session. Okay, you can continue the dialogue in the ECCP Forum. Okay. Anyway, we are going to send. I hope today a survey to all of you requesting information about the disruption. Is very important for us, not only for us, for the Commission, for everyone, to have a proper approach, methodological approach to this information. So we will ask you for your support, your expertise, answering this survey. It will help greatly us to better understand and better prepare the next future. Thank you very much. Tomorrow we will speak about the plastic disruption. It's very important to have you there. And I know that Anais wants to remember those members of the CBR that today at 11 o'clock you will have another session. See you. Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Antonio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.